but you've got Cam and you've got Isaac today. And
Hello.
Jadon Sancho has signed for Manchester United, confirmed by the GOAT Fabrizio Romano. And that is a fantastic signing, wouldn't you say, Isaac?
I would indeed. The signing we've been looking forward to for 2 years now. After the crushing disappointment of last summer, it's finally happened. I am, after yesterday and now this, I'm just over the moon, man. I'm over the moon.
Yeah, me too. What a couple of days. I was on the stream with someone on TikTok earlier, and he was describing last summer as feeling like a divorce in the way that in the way it was for United, just not quite getting Jadon Sancho over the line. But I mean, you look back on it now, we've got Jadon Sancho for 35 million euros less or fewer than we would have had to pay last summer. Good business all round, you have to say.
I absolutely do, man. As the Dortmund Twitter account would say, we absolutely love to see it. But honestly, this is a guy 21 years old. I think 4 players in the last 3 seasons have averaged more than 1 goals or assist per 90. And Sancho is one of them. The other 3 being Mbappe, Lewandowski, and Lionel Messi. So not bad company. So to get that over the line for below 75 million, I think is absolutely fantastic business. Hopefully a sign that finally Manchester United are getting serious in the transfer market. Oh, is he still there? Oh dear, we had another technical hitch.
Problematic.
Indeed. Oh, Rahul, Jadon. Indeed, Rahul. I'll try and keep you occupied whilst the technical hitch is resolved. But yeah, it's done. It's done. Honestly, I couldn't be happier.
Is the connection now any better, or is that still problematic?
I'm seeing you better now, man. I'm seeing you better now.
Lovely stuff. Well, look, it's all done. And how do you feel?
It's gone again.
We got last year. Maybe we would have won the Europe. We've saved money, and that's important. How do you feel about that?
I mean, yeah, honestly, now it seems I don't think it was a strategic decision, but it seems like it's come off pretty well. I don't really think Sancho would have made much of a material difference to how we finished last season. We might have won the Europa League, as you said, and we might not, but we definitely wouldn't have won we wouldn't have won the Premier League with him or without him. And now we've got him for 35 million less than we would have done last summer. So materially, it's probably been pretty good waiting a season, I'd say. Oh man, the connection keeps going.
Yeah, that's not great today. Today, guys, we're having a few technical hitches with the connection. That's mainly because my stuff is currently in boxes making its way back from my university to here, and because it's in boxes, I've not got the connection infrastructure we need. Hear me now? Is it or not? I guess not.
It's okay. I'm hearing you. It's just pretty glitchy.
Oh, as long as you can hear me, that's the main point. Well, look, that's heard much from me will know I do not want Pau Torres near Manchester United Football Club. The man, Lindelof's bad in the air because he doesn't use his body well and he doesn't jump well. He doesn't anticipate things well. Pau Torres is bad in the air because he misjudges the fight of the ball. And in the Premier League centre-back, you cannot have that. I do not want that man anywhere near Manchester United. That's a fact.
I agree, honestly. From what I would...
and people say Brown's bad. As far as I'm concerned, he's been a lot better than Ruben Diaz has, and Ruben Diaz is a fantastic centre-back. So, look, and given time to Bellingham United alongside Harry Maguire, I think he's a great partner for Maguire. If we can get him, we'll be very happy. But absolutely hard no to Pau Torres. Over to you, Isaac. What are you saying on that?
I agree. I'd rather Varane than Pau Torres 10 times out of 10. I think Pau Torres is good. I don't think I honestly don't think he'd be an upgrade on Lindelof. Really, I think that you're buying a guy essentially who has the same weaknesses as Lindelof, probably similar strengths. Purely because he's left-footed, and I don't really know how much of a difference that really is going to make to our side. I think Harry Maguire does more than a fine job as the left centre back, and possibly even shunting him out to the right could be disruptive. Whereas, I mean, Rafael Varane. I honestly, somewhat controversially, don't think he's quite as good as a lot of people perhaps do. I think he is very, very, very good, and I would definitely take him at United. I'm not convinced he's actually. Again, this is possibly controversial, possibly very controversial. I'm not convinced the last season he was any better than Maguire, but I guess you don't necessarily need him to be. You just need him to be a good partner to Maguire, and I think he probably would be. And for the prices being quoted, 40 million, I think, is around what is being said would be taken to get him at United. I think that'd be a pretty solid addition. Definitely more so than Pau Torres. I'm with you that I don't want Pau Torres.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Pau Torres, to be fair to him, technically, he's one of the best centre-backs I've ever seen in possession. Every single, when he's got the ball at his feet, he is fantastic. He's brilliant at passing that ball forwards, moving it left, right, long passes, long diagonals, but also into a challenge. He's not just looking to win the ball. He's looking to move that ball with his challenge to a teammate straight away. He's a defender, and he's brilliant at it. But he's so weak in the air that as a Premier League centre-back, I just think he's honestly a liability. If he can sort out his career, then in 4 years' time, and if it's sorted, I'd love him at United. But right now, he's a liability in the Premier League, so no. As you said, Rafael Varane for 40 million, he's a brilliant partner for Harry Maguire. I mean, the best years of his career have come alongside Sergio Ramos, you'd have to say. The best things he's done in his career. And Sergio Ramos is an alpha centre-back. He's a leader. He's a dominant centre-back. And you could say the same about Harry Maguire. And as you say, Maguire's doing a brilliant job on the left. I think a lot of his carries out of defence. Maguire's pretty much always played on that left side of defence, hasn't he? So a lot of his carries out of defence from that position. That's what he's used to doing. And he has a great partnership with Luke Shaw. And I agree with you. I think shunting him out to the right side could be detrimental. It could harm us more than it helps us. But now, we've talked centre-backs. We've talked Jadon Sancho. The big thing that's happening at the moment. How are you finding it? How are you enjoying it?
I take it we must be talking about the tennis, the Wimbledon.
Oh,
No.
I meant more than money.
Oh yeah, obviously. No. Obviously the Euros, man, absolutely fantastic. I genuinely think that in addition to an absolutely fantastic England win against Germany yesterday, I think Switzerland might have been one of the best football matches I've ever seen live. Well, obviously not live, but absolutely incredible. Just what a game. I gave Switzerland basically no chance after Pogba's belter of a goal. By the way, what I've just thought I'd mention whilst we're here. What a performance from Pogba. I mean, I hear that a lot of his teammates were getting on his back after the game for a lack of defensive contribution. Frankly, he was their best fucking player throughout the Euros. So I have no idea how he always seems to be attracting stick, no matter how well he performs in any given tournament. Even after the fucking Switzerland game, the pundits were talking about how frustrating he is as a player. It was just madness. He was easily France's best player on that pitch, and bar Xhaka, I'd say probably the best player on the pitch. We've done
the Euros. We've been looking at all these games, these massive midfield matchups. We've been talking about Pogba versus Bruno, all that sort of stuff. And the midfield matchup of the tournament so far, you've got to say, is Granit Xhaka versus Paul Pogba.
Oh,
and to be fair to Granit Xhaka, he's more than held his own, hasn't he? He's done brilliantly there in that game.
Possibly just edged it even.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't helped by the fact that N'Golo Kante had a pretty mediocre performance by his standards.
That's pretty nicely.
And I mean, there was some really bad. I thought Benjamin Pavard was just dreadful. I mean, he could not handle. I think it's Zuber. Is it Stefan Zuber? I don't want to get that wrong.
Steven Zuber, yeah. But,
he could not handle him.
we talk about coaching, we talk about tactics, and we talk about most of it. That is what Didier Deschamps showed in that game. The reason France lost that game, obviously the players on the pitch, some of them could have played better. But I think the reason they lost that game was because Deschamps was arrogant. He's not played in the back three before. He's very much a 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3 sort of manager. He sticks with that sort of thing constantly. And in that game, he's turned up and he said to Switzerland, you know what? We don't play this normally, but because your players are not as good as ours, we're going to play your shape and we're going to beat you. In that first half, no one in that blue, was it a blue France shirt or a white France shirt? I think blue shirt, I think. Whatever France shirt it was, no one in a France shirt had a clue where they should be. The wing-backs were horribly out of position. Pavard had no idea what he was doing. Rabiot had no idea what he was doing. Pavard especially, he was trying to play too high at times. He was just beyond the press. They couldn't give him the ball. He wasn't an outlet. And defensively, he had no idea who to track back with. And he was trying to tuck in too much, trying to go long too much. Then we come on to the centre-backs. Varane and the left centre-back was it was Longley in the middle and Kimpembe on the left. Kimpembe and Varane, the two of them had no idea what was going on. They were constantly caught in two minds whether to go and defend the wide areas or whether to stay next to Longley. Longley, it didn't help that he had an awful performance himself. He was pretty poor in everything he did. But every single player there didn't know what they were doing. And look, when they were trying to build as well, you've got the back three covering the width of the pitch. You don't then need midfielders dropping in, especially when Switzerland aren't pressing. But Kante and Pogba had no idea where they were supposed to be, so they kept dropping in and making it a 4 or a 5. Honestly, it was a shambles from France, and the only one man to blame on that is Didier Deschamps. He was so arrogant. I cannot believe the way he's gone and turned up in that game and played them like that. It was absolutely horrendous. Pavard at right wing back was shocking, and I mean, to be fair to him, give him credit for changing it at half time when he realised it wasn't working. But why he ever thought that would work, I have no idea. Why he thought that playing all of those players who played so many games for France in a specific system, shifting all of those out of position was better than just Rabiot playing as a left back when he did that perfectly fine in the previous game after Digne got injured. I'll have no idea. Absolutely no idea. Shocking from Didier Deschamps. That's the end of my rant on France, but Isaac, question for you here. Raphael Varane or Jules Koundé?
See, this one's a lot tougher for me. I have become a real fan of Jules Koundé after. I mean, it was pretty stupid, and I had some doubts about his aerial ability. Having gone and watched a few of his matches, that was really just baseless and based on the fact that he's not particularly tall. In fact, he's not tall at all for a Premier League for any centre half. But he's got a fantastic jump. I first want to speak about how he is technically brilliant. He is a technically brilliant centre half. But he's also a fantastic athlete. I mean, I can't remember exactly which match I watched him in. I think it may have been Villarreal who they were playing against, and yeah, his athleticism was just fantastic. It was incredible. I'd almost still like to say that I'd say Varane is probably generally a more confident defender in terms of his defensive fundamentals are probably better than Jules Koundé right now. Varane would probably be cheaper than Jules Koundé right now, but I'd almost be tempted to take Jules Koundé because I think that Varane's not old. Let's be clear on that. He's probably got another 4 or 5 years of solid top level football in him. But I think Jules Koundé, with the right coaching, could be I don't exactly know how far to go with this, but possibly one of the best centre backs in the world in a few years' time. I almost think he'd be more well suited to City and probably get better coaching at City, but he's not going to go there because they have so many centre backs right now. I don't know. I that's a much more difficult question than the Pau Torres one for me.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that Jules Koundé is a fantastic player, and I think what I was going to say there when I was about to jump in on the aerial thing. I mean, you mentioned you watched the game against Villarreal. Looking good aerially in the Liga is very different to looking good aerially in the Premier League. But what you've got to say is, was it France-Portugal was that was the third group game, wasn't it? Because I'm pretty sure I saw Jules Koundé out-jump Ronaldo for a couple of headers.
Yeah, not easy to do. Not easy to do.
I think that's enough said. People saying, is he good in the air? Is he not good in the air? If he's out jumping Ronaldo, I think it's safe to assume that despite his height, he's perfectly fine in the air. He's a fantastic player. SK says, Varane, to be honest, I'm not sure of the Maguire-Koundé partnership. That is fair. I mean, a lot of people aren't sure about it because, I mean, to be fair, we've seen a lot more of Varane in Champions League level than we've seen of Jules times. So we've seen a lot more of Rafael Varane. We're naturally a lot more confident with him, but I do think he's a fantastic player as well. Hassan says, yes, lad, and it's coming home. And then a bunch of...
Too right.
Is that a bunch of black flags for you as well, or is that just...
It is a bunch of black flags for me.
Not sure what nation you're meaning there, but... So the old St George's Cross wouldn't go amiss in that message, I reckon. Hassan also says he doesn't think Varane is realistic. Madrid surely can't let Ramos and Varane go in one go. It remains to be seen what they say on that, to be honest. But I think it's possible. I think Madrid at this point they're going downhill. They've lost. They've lost it. Their club is only going one way. Look, they're attackers as well. They've got a lot of potential, but none of them have any end product. Vinicius, Rodrigo, they're headless chickens at this point. Eden Hazard's a shadow of what he was at Chelsea. Madrid are going one way, and that is down. Hassan says, for some reason... I'll go to his first, then we'll come back to WP. He says, for some reason, England flags turn into that flag. It won't let me do the England flag. Fair enough, we'll allow that. It's no problems. WP... I think you can. Fair enough. You were telling us long in advance. Yeah, no, he was telling us long in advance. The man is... But at the same time, Locatelli's turned up at the Euro and absolutely bossed it. I
mean, to be fair, WP, he's not wrong. You're not wrong. Locatelli is a class player. I mean, I almost can't think of many players that I want more at United right now who are feasible. Jadon Sancho was one of them, but that's done. Yeah, Locatelli is a fantastic player. I think ticks so many boxes for what United need in a midfielder right now. I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's sound by all accounts he's staying in Italy. I think Juventus probably is the most likely destination.
You're saying he's staying in Italy. We've got his agent here on the line telling us he is going to Arsenal. Right there. Man. He's going to Arsenal.
Oh, dear. That would be a shame.
If he goes to Arsenal, he's turning to shit, guaranteed. So.
A first non-banter signing for Arsenal in a while.
Yeah, exactly. So SK says Basuma would be easy. Look, I don't know what you guys in the comments, what you think about Basuma, but for me, honestly, is Basuma better than Fred? I really don't think so. I think you put Fred in that Brighton team, and I think Fred will play as well as, if not better than Basuma's playing. I mean, I've got to be honest, I was surprised when Neymar came out and said that if it wasn't for Fred, we wouldn't have won this game after a Copa America a while ago. But look, I don't think Basuma is going to carry the Brazilian team. Haters will obviously say he's not Brazilian, but I just can't see Basuma in that Brazil team carrying it like Fred apparently has done. So, look, Basuma, yeah, he looks good in that team because they're a very good team on the ball. It makes his job a lot easier, but I just don't think he's that much better than Fred, to be perfectly honest. WP, Sancho'S CEO said they've received a decent bid from him from Arsenal, so it's quite possible. Is that?
Oh, please no.
I really hope not. But if that's what the CEO is telling you, then fair enough.
Why is his agent only hearing this from Sassuolo's CEO's public statements? Is what I want to know. Surely WP is ahead of the game. And also, by the way, man, whilst you're here, do you have any other defensive bids on your agency?
Or any other position,
man. Like, yeah, man, just hit us up. I think you pulled a banger with Locatelli. You must have someone else.
We need WP on here as our Italian football expert. Is what we need.
Yeah, man. Maybe it is Don Fabrizio.
Yeah, I think we need WP. WP, drop me a DM on Twitter, and we'll try to get you on a stream. Because to be fair, you've absolutely bossed it with the Locatelli call. Hassan says, I think a defensive mid is a priority for the moment. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Now that Sancho's done, look, I mean, my concern with defensive mid, if you look at centre back, we've been linked with Rafael Varane heavily. We've been heavily linked with Pau Torres. We've been heavily linked with Jules Koundé. Defensive mids, Declan Rice, a little bit. Locatelli a little bit, and Camavinga in the last couple of days. I just don't see any concrete links or anything suggesting we're going all out to sign defensive mid. I think the coaching staff at the moment at United seem to think that a centre back is a higher priority. And if they think that, fair enough. But I think for me and for Hassan and maybe for yourself, Isaac, a defensive mid is top of the order. What do you think?
Absolutely. I almost don't get me wrong. I'd like a centre back, but I almost don't think I wouldn't be disappointed if we didn't get one this summer. If we got a centre mid, a central defensive mid, but I also think that it needs to be obviously the right central defensive mid. I have some reservations about Basuma just because I'm not entirely sure if his ball progression is good enough to play that role right now. Even Declan Rice, same sort of applies. I'm not 100% convinced about whether his ball progression is, again, exactly what we need or exactly sufficient to fulfill the role that we need him to fulfill. Because that, I think, is probably the biggest issue with McTominay and Fred. Neither are particularly good at progressing the ball. I think Maram on Twitter did a really good thread about that, as in they have quite high numbers for progressive passes, but not in the right areas.
Maram, she rips off United Arena, apparently. All her work's ripped off of United Arena. Benno Farrell says, hello. Hi, mate. How are you doing? Thanks so much for the support earlier on the earlier stream. Now we've got a bit more football-related one rather than the FIFA whatever was going on. So chat. I mean, at the moment, we're just talking about, defensive mids and where we're seeing that going. SK says, I agree. I just meant we won't spend big on a defensive mid after Sancho, so I can only see Basuma on the cheap. Yeah, that is possible, depending on how the budget constraints seem to be. WP here. Brozovic is a very good defensive mid that would suit us, but it's unlikely we get him. Yeah. There was talk that I think possibly Inter looking to sell some players. So maybe Brozovic would be one of those, but I think now that Conte's left, maybe just for the next manager in case he likes Brozovic, I suppose. But yeah, like Isaac says, I just don't think he's good enough as yet. It's not so much progressive part, but I don't think there's any particular stat. I just think he overachieves, or he looks better than he is because of the team he's in, to be perfectly honest. I think that has more of an impact than anything else. That's my reason. Benno Farrell, Dominic, lad. You know my views on that.
We're going to have a disagreement here.
Yeah, I'm a massive fan of Scott McTominay. I love the lad. He's, I think I'm fairly shackled at the moment because we haven't got he's having to do that job. If you let McTominay go forward, he's incredible. He's fantastic.
I do not agree with that.
okay. Not incredible, not on the levels of Bruno Fernandes or whatever. But I tell you what, he's a lot better than people give him credit for. He's a really good carrier of the ball. He's pretty good at sort of passing forwards between the lines when he's sort of moving forward with the ball. Not when he's from a static position trying to progress from deep. But when he's on the ball, he's able to make those quick interchange passes. Let's say he's running in that right channel. He can move that ball towards Martial, move forward for the 1-2, go in and finish it. He's a good finisher as well. Obviously, used to be a striker in the academy. But one of the things with players that scouts are always looking for is when they're shooting, whether it's from the edge of the box, especially for midfielders, or inside the box, the players that always go for the corners. Because for a lot of players, just hitting the target enough is okay. But you can tell someone's a composed striker and a good finisher of the ball, a composed striker of the ball and a good finisher when they always go for the corners. Whether it's left foot, right foot. Urosano was a fantastic example. He had a lot of shots off target, but every time a shot was on target, it would almost always go in for City because he was always hitting the corners. And that is massive. That's what McTominay is fantastic at. Shows his composure in the box and obviously as well, to be fair to United, shows that they've got and building that trait up through the player.
Yeah, but mate, we're talking about finishing and going for the corners. Fred hits the corner flag every time. What are you talking about?
Yeah, Fred hits the corner flag, gets a grin and a round of applause for Ollie when he does it.
He's got a great shot on him.
Fred runs around like a headless chicken, but honestly,
man. Respect Fred. Honestly, this is the one. I think the one. I think this is the one United-related debate where we're in strongest disagreement. Because I agree with Ben. I think Fred is quite considerably better than McTominay, honestly. Not going forward. I mean, honestly, Fred is a bit crap going forward in a lot of regards. Definitely shooting, not one of his strong points. But I mean, talking of the running around, I don't think it's quite as headless as a lot of people do. I mean, I do think he actually does contribute quite a lot more than McTominay in the defensive phase. I think he's a lot better at showing for the ball than McTominay is.
Am I hearing this right? You've just said I don't think it's quite as headless as some people say. So what you're saying is he's bad, but he's not as bad as people say.
I mean, I think he's good. I think Fred's a good player, and I think that's shown in the fact that when he's playing for Brazil in a decent midfield setup, he genuinely is quite highly regarded. I mean, people honestly are quite confused by it. I think he's just underrated. I think he's a decent midfielder who next to someone who's not awful at showing for the ball, like McTominay is, next to someone who's a better progressive passer than McTominay, would genuinely look okay. I mean, I don't want to make it out that I think McTominay is completely crap. I think he has his uses. Obviously it's a complete intangible, so it's hard to know. But I think his mentality is genuinely fantastic. I'd emphasize in how well he performs in big games. I think he genuinely has his uses, but only as a squad player.
We know the coaching staff are massive fans of McTominay's mentality. He's apparently one of the mentality monsters in the squad, along with Cavani, along with Bruno Fernandes. They're the guys that lead the squad in terms of in the gym, on the training pitch. They're the ones ensuring everyone's fully committed. So fair play to him on that. I tell you what, WP knows his stuff. One of the problems with McTominay is how flat-footed he is. He's unlikely his technical potential is ever going to be great.
Yeah, get him on the stream. Yeah, this guy needs to be on there. We'll
get you on. You obviously know your stuff. But flat-footed firstly, but also receiving the ball. He always wants to receive the ball either facing directly back to goal or directly towards his own goal or directly towards the opposition goal. He very rarely likes receiving the ball any other angle, which is a massive, massive problem for him. Because in a midfielder, they've got to be able to receive the ball 360 degrees, any angle you want, and then play off it. And because of that, McTominay often ends up hiding behind opposition players, which makes him a bit of a liability when he tries to play out of a press, especially at times. Ben says, I agree, McTominay is a box-to-box, not a holding midfielder. Yeah, and coming back to what Isaac said about Fred looking better in the Brazil team, in the Brazil team, he's playing alongside Casemiro, a proper defensive mid. And that's just the overarching point here. Whatever midfielder we've got, every single midfielder we have, Donny van de Beek, Paul Pogba, Scott McTominay, Fred, Bruno Fernandes, all of them, even, okay, maybe not Nemanja Matic, because you haven't heard what I'm about to say, but it will make sense in a second. Every single one of those will look better alongside a proper defensive mid because they'll have the defensive organisation of the defensive midfield player and they'll be able to do their jobs going forward more and just run around more because they've got the anchor point behind them. On to Camavinga chat then. Do we think Camavinga would be a better option as a defensive mid as he is a defensive mid? I mean, I wouldn't say he's a defensive mid. He's a runner. He is a runner, as WP says. Look, you know what? I'm not even going to answer this. WP's answered this perfectly.
You don't need to answer any questions, man.
Yeah,
just sit here silently and wait for WP to fucking type out the answers to questions. But no, I completely agree. But what I would say about Camavinga is that even if he doesn't necessarily address the need right now, I definitely wouldn't be averse to signing him because I think at 18, with the right coaching, he could definitely become. He could probably become basically any type of midfielder, maybe aside from a number 10. But at 18, he's already playing top level football very regularly. I think that when you've got that much talent on your hands, the right coaching, you probably can turn him into whatever you want, which is why I think he would be. I think I would sign him almost even if he doesn't necessarily address that need right now, if the price is right.
Yeah, agree completely. I think the one thing I'd say, well, look, as WP says, he's a runner at the moment, not a dictator. He'd be more of a Pogba replacement. It would be a great passer next to him. Yeah, exactly. But I think he can, as Isaac said, with coaching, with time, he'll improve his passing. When he becomes a good passer, he's suddenly so much more valuable than every single person else. At the moment, he's a great runner, fantastically mobile, up and down that pitch, everywhere, all the time, which is brilliant. If United said to him, I mean, as Isaac said, if United say to him, okay, look, you're very good at your defensive work when you focus on that. And what we want you to do in our team is sit back and defend. if we told him that's what you want to do, he'd become a fantastic defensive mid, no doubt. He'd improve his passing over time and become a great player defensively. But the problem is, it's a bit of a sad thing with youth players. If you tell them to do that and you pigeonhole them into a defensive mid, you're going to end up in a situation in 4 or 5 years where you could have had one of the greatest box-to-box mids in the world, but you pigeonholed him and made him a defensive mid, which he'll do very well. But I feel like with youth development, I always prefer to see players just allowed to sort of play their own game and have as broad a role as possible until they hit their prime years. Just a personal thing I've got with youth players. I think it's a better way to help them develop. But I suppose we'll see how United do it. Ben says, I think United will wait until next January to get Zachariah when you only have 6 months left. Yeah, potentially it's possible. I mean, he'd be a decent defensive mid, I suppose. But I think with Zachariah's injury history is a real concern. Rosario Vega says, nice video, mate. Cheers, mate. Glad you're enjoying it. Mohammed Tariq says, oh, nice to see you back again. We've seen you on a few videos before, I think. Type, sign me up for Jadon Sancho on YouTube and treat yourself, guys. Is that one of your videos, Mohammed? In which case, I'll definitely give that a watch after the stream. Varane next. So glad Sancho's done, Talk Sports says. And Talking Sports is Talking Sports again with, is he going to wear number 7? So from what we understand at the moment, he has been asked to wear the number 7 shirt, but no decision has been made yet.
Oh, he'll wear the number 7, 100%. There's no way the marketing team aren't giving him the number 7.
What about Cavani? Where does Cavani go there?
I don't think Cavani doesn't strike me as the type of guy to kick up a stink because he's had a shirt number taken away from him. I imagine Cavani would be all too happy to give Jadon Sancho the number 7 if he was asked to.
I don't want to say Anthony Martial violated again, but
I mean, I think Anthony Martial is honestly going to be sold this summer. I don't think he's going to be a United player by the end of it.
We can come on to that in a second, but yeah, Adam says, what if Sancho wasn't playing because his mind was on this? To be fair, I think that is the thing. I think look, it's one of the worst kept secrets in football that Sancho's had a move to United coming for about 6 months. I think Gareth Southgate knows that. Jadon Sancho knows that. They all know things are happening on the deal. So it is very much a reason. I think the main reason he's not playing is probably because Bukayo Saka's just trained better than him. Because to be fair to Sancho, he's not really shown his potential that much when he's played for England so far. So I don't think it's unreasonable that he's not playing. Quickly back to McTominay. Ben says he's a box-to-box against Leeds in December. Leeds play free-flowing football and let McTominay be a box-to-box. The most goal was one game from a holding mid. Or I'm assuming that's what you meant. Yeah, he said mid in the next message. Yeah, I mean, we see that. When McTominay's got space to run into, he's fantastic. He's an absolutely unreal athlete. And when he's running towards goal, when he's moving in straight lines back and forward, brilliant. It's on those angles, he's not quite so good. He's got to improve that, and he will improve that because every single season, every single game, he seems to be getting better. Waleed says, great content. Thank you, mate. Glad you're enjoying it as well. Cavani will be given number 12.
Not really. I guess possibly. I don't really know much about shirt numbers. I don't know what numbers Cavani's worn in the past. I don't know if he's worn the number 12 at a different club. I don't think it matters that. I think Sancho's getting the number 7 just because the marketing team, they're gonna want him to wear the number 7. Realistically, he's the big signing.
Yeah, he is. He's the big signing man to end the number 7 curse that Cavani's already ended, but properly ended.
Yeah, exactly. The curse isn't even there anymore. We can give it to Sancho. Cavani. That's another thing. Cavani's signing. He's ended the curse, man. We don't need to worry about it.
Give it to Jadon Sancho. It doesn't really work, does it?
Man. Yeah, I'm not sure if that one will catch on.
Yeah, I'm not blessed with fantastic musicality, but it is what it is. Not Abba's finest. That give it to Jadon Sancho. Mohammed Tariq says it's a cool song. I found it and it's dope. Fair enough. It's a song about Jadon Sancho. Nice. Definitely give it a listen. What centre back and defensive mid would I sign if I was director of football? Defensive mid, I would go and get Declan Rice. Actually, to be fair, blank checkbook. You can have anyone in the world and they can't say no to joining United. Actually, in that case, I go for Fernandinho first because I think he's the best in the world. Second, I would go with Josh Kimmich. I think he's absolutely unreal. Third choice, probably Casemiro. But look, I think at this point, Kimmich isn't going to come. He obviously loves Bayern. Fernandinho plays for City and he's like 35, 36. I think the best option for United right now is probably Declan Rice. A lot of the time, we do say his progressive passing is not there yet. He's got a way to go. But I think he's improving that. Like McTominay, he's getting better every season. He's getting better every game. And for West Ham, look, for England, we see a lot of the time, he's he'll put work if the ball comes straight into him on the left side. Rather than play that pass straight away like a Kroos or a Busquets will, at the moment he seems to be doing a lot of just time to put his foot on the ball, get it onto his right and move it slowly. In the game against Germany was good because it gave us control of the ball at times. But when he plays for West Ham, he plays those passes. I think it's just a confidence thing. It's just a mentality thing. And when he gets that sorted, he'll be a fantastic player behind Pogba and Bruno, if that works as a midfield. Isaac, you can go for this. Go for this comment here. Get these next few comments. Get yourself stuck in.
Oh, are we talking about the centre back and defensive mid still, or the Sancho?
Read the Sancho, then you can go back to the centre back and defensive mid. 14
games, we left wing, 9 goals, 9 assists on right, 5 goals. That's amazing. Yeah, flexibility, another asset we didn't really talk about, which is probably going to be quite important for us in the first. I'm not entirely sure how long it'll be, but I believe that Marcus Rashford is set to miss the start of the season because of an operation on his shoulder. Is it? I know he's got some injury that he requires an operation, but so I think probably you'll see Sancho on the left to start off with, and probably Mason Greenwood on the right. Obviously, with Mason Greenwood's two-footedness, you haven't seen many more players that have more levels of two-footedness. If that's a word, if that's a phrase, then Mason Greenwood, you probably have them interchanging as he does with Dortmund. Oftentimes, you'll see him pop up on the right, and then at a different point in the game, he'll be on the left. So, yeah, I think that you'll see that dynamic from the first few months at United, at least with Rashford out until September. So, yeah, I think that's probably something that you're likely to see. Maybe Dan James also get some game time.
Probably Ahmad
on the left. Yeah, of course. Yeah, Ahmad as well, who is also capable of playing on the right and the left, I believe, like with almost equal competency. So yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of dynamic interchanges between Sancho and one of the other wingers. I'd say Greenwood's probably going to be the one that plays the most.
Yeah, because I think Greenwood will be the rotation striker. I think what will happen now, if we keep Martial for the summer, I think Martial will be seen as a left winger. I think that we Cavani and Greenwood the primary strikers, maybe Martial as well, but I just can't see him being given that much time there.
Martial's going to leave, honestly. I don't see him. I just don't see. As a striker, maybe, but I don't see how. I don't think Dan James is leaving, and I almost don't. I don't want Dan James to leave. By the way,
I think Dan James has improved so much in the Euros as well. If you give him a simple role as a winger, like an out-and-out winger, he's fantastic.
Also, I think he's got serious utility as in especially big matches when you need a winger who tracks back.
Yep.
I don't think any of our other wingers are particularly great at that. And Jadon Sancho probably included, honestly. It seems to be one of his few weak points at Dortmund, which I'm not necessarily concerned about, especially playing on the right. I don't think that Wan-Bissaka doesn't generally struggle with one-to-one defending. In fact, he's probably one of the best one-to-one defenders in world football right now. So perhaps not a huge issue, but I think that Dan James's ability to track back, certainly in big matches, is actually a pretty huge asset at times, an underrated asset. So yeah, I think Martial. I think we'll probably try to sell him. I don't know if we'll be successful.
Yeah, where's he going to go? I mean, who would want to go Tottenham now with a defensive manager they just brought in? I'd take Wood from Dortmund, Waller. WP
is really what we need.
I can't say I've watched him enough to really know either way. I think Sancho improves our build-up and progression more than people think. He's already one of the best progressive carriers. We'll be able to drag players towards him and exploit it. Yeah, and you know what as well with Sancho? He'll hopefully mean that we can actually use the right-hand side, because at the moment our play is so left-heavy, it's unreal. And if we can use the right-hand side more as well, it gives us more variety in the chances we create. He is playing on the right. Obviously, at the moment, Bruno tends to gravitate towards the left side of the pitch quite a lot. But as we've seen for Portugal in the Euros, when he gets into those right channels, he can play those crosses just like Kevin De Bruyne can from most positions. And they're very accurate, very hard to defend, because the defenders, if you're trying to clear it, that ball's spinning towards your own goal. It's defend. So we can see even more from Bruno Fernandes potentially if Sancho can let us use that right. WP, with I don't think Declan Rice would suit us at all. He's not a great playmaker and struggles when receiving, facing the goal. Great defender, but we need more than that in defensive mid. That is fair. That is a fair criticism of him. I personally think he's improving constantly in terms of receiving the ball at different angles, especially facing the goal. And I think his playmaking skills as well, he's improving that all the time as well. I think I would say he's probably better than Ndidi on the ball, which is important because Ndidi, I think a lot of people want us to sign him. Defensively, he's fantastic. He gets through an absolute mountain of work. Incredible. It's what you need when you're playing with Pogba and Bruno. But I think on the ball, teams would just press him, and that would give us a massive problem. Isaac, here you go. You can go on this one. Of Mbappe and Haaland.
He's definitely not far off. I'm not entirely sure. I'd say there are basically any players around that age bracket who are on the same level as Mbappe. I really like Mbappe as a player. I just think there's so much about him that's just insane. I mean, I don't. He didn't have a fantastic Euros, obviously, but and has received quite a lot of stick for that. But I mean, just his ability to just ghost past players as if they're just not there is just. I have not seen it. I don't think I've ever seen it really, because it's different. It's different to the way, say, Messi would do it. It's just because he's got insane acceleration and speed, but also his technical ability on the ball is just fantastic as well. Pardon?
Early years Ronaldo?
Yeah, maybe. Possibly a bit more like that than Messi. But
yeah.
But I don't know. Yeah, Haaland. I'd say he's probably around the level of Haaland, to be fair. But Haaland, again, there's just I've watched a few games of Haaland, and he is again just frightening to watch. I don't really know how else to use it except from just these stupid cliches. But
Ruben Diaz agrees, mate. He absolutely ruined. Yeah.
He ruined so many defenders, man. I mean, I watched him against Leipzig in the Pokal final, doing a bit of Sancho scouting.
Yeah.
And he just, I mean, Deo Upamecano is a physically incredibly imposing defender, and he just bullied him. I mean, the fact that you combine his size with such pace and, I mean, intelligence to know when to make the run, and then the technical ability to finish it. I mean, it's just phenomenal.
It is. WP, really don't think we should sell Martial. His link-up play is so good. Hasn't his best season, but can see him coming back very easily, especially his finishing. I agree. And also, when you're playing against the low block, if you're going to play Sancho on the right, then Martial on the left could be a better option than Marcus. So yeah, quite possibly. Any other contract? Not that I know of just yet, specifically.
Don Fabrizio said that he's going to be offered one. I imagine he's going to take it.
He's not going to leave, is he?
No, I don't see there's any scenario in which Luke Shaw leaves.
Yeah, exactly. Cavani's weaknesses are Martial's strengths. I think Pogba will be played on the right of the pivot in order to facilitate Sancho more. Potentially. But the problem is, where does the defensive volume come from then? Because if Pogba's been playing on the right of the pivot, the best defensive player in terms of effort and energy levels, you're just going to leave Wan-Bissaka and Lindelof exposed?
Please, I really don't want to see Pogba in the pivot anymore. I mean, he doesn't work as a double pivot midfielder. That's not a disrespect to him. I absolutely love Paul Pogba, and it is genuinely one of my biggest problems with United over the past few years is how badly we've utilised him. I said this to you a few days ago on Messenger, and I genuinely stand by it, that Paul Pogba should be talked about as being on the level of Kevin De Bruyne. And if he was used right, he would be talked about as being on the level of Kevin De Bruyne. And pundits talk about, how he doesn't fulfill his potential. He's being asked to play in a double pivot alongside one of Fred or McTominay. I guarantee you there is not a midfielder out there of Paul Pogba's mould that would would be able to do that way. If you put Kevin De Bruyne in that double pivot and said, "Go on, do your stuff," he wouldn't do it. And it genuinely, it really pisses me off that Pogba has been used so badly by the club, because he's such a talented player. He's not just talented; he's so fun to watch. Just how effortless he makes some absolutely ridiculous passes look.
Yeah.
And
Ben's saying, I'm assuming that's where Varane comes in. I'm assuming you mean on the sort of to deal with that right side to make it less vulnerable if we're.
I just don't think any centre back. I don't think any centre back can do that. Maybe Van Dijk. That's it.
Mbappe is the only generational player in your opinion. Sancho's more important to Dortmund than Haaland. Quite possibly, actually. Yeah, that's not.
Yeah, I can sort of agree with both of those arguments. Maybe not quite.
Not the first. Haaland's on that level, definitely.
No, I don't agree. But then I don't also. I'm not entirely sure Sancho is more important to Dortmund than Haaland. I think they're probably both around the same level of importance to Dortmund.
Mbappe lacks the ruthlessness and arrogance to reach that level. Haaland has it in abundance. I don't think Mbappe lacks that. I just think Haaland just exudes it, to be honest. I think Mbappe's
arrogant. When it comes to, I mean, they are intangible traits. I don't mean this as, I don't mean to be disrespectful to Mbappe. I've never really watched him and thought he lacks arrogance.
Yeah,
I'd almost say he has it in abundance.
I mean, look at that celebration he's pulling off.
He seems incredibly confident in himself, and again, that's no bad thing. With that level of talent, you justify it.
You've got the celebration. You got that one, and then you've got the crying one as well. Like, you don't do that if you're not an arrogant player.
No, I don't begrudge him with that. I think he has the talent to justify it. Again, with intangibles, I struggle to. I don't really have any. I feel like it's quite difficult to say, as fans, with any certainty that a player lacks a certain mentality trait to become a top level player. I think Mbappe already is a top level player, so I think that's kind of the only thing I'd like to see. I'd like to see Mbappe leave PSG at some point, just because I don't think that's a league that really is going to ever showcase his phenomenal talent level.
I don't know how you feel about this one, and we'll come on to Ben's next point quickly in a minute, because that's a very good point, and I've got plenty of stuff to say about that, as you can imagine. But the Ligue 1, right? I don't think PSG are ever going to win the Champions League until the level of Ligue 1 is such that they actually have to play their best football most weeks. Because I think without it, it's too hard to go from playing in third and then suddenly playing against Bayern Munich in midweek. I just don't think that's possible. I think the reason the Premier League teams are doing well now is because the Premier League right now is very strong, and other leagues are weaker than they have been. I think, look, when the La Liga teams were absolutely bossing it in the Champions League, that's because La Liga was very strong. All the teams in the Liga were better on average than all the teams in the other 5 leagues in Europe. I mean, maybe the top teams in some leagues, or there's more top teams in some leagues. Let's say there's 5-6 good teams in the Premier League, 34 in the Liga. But the standard of the rest of them is such that the top teams in the Liga in that period had to play better to win those games than the top 6 in the Premier League had to play. And I think that's why keeping that standard at a certain minimum level is what you need to be successful in Europe. And I just don't think Ligue 1 and PSG will ever win the Champions League until the league is strong enough to do that. And that is what I wanted to come to. Pogba plays in the pivot. Kante, and is the best midfielder in the world because Kante can hold the midfield by himself. It's not just Kante. It's at the World Cup it was Blaise Matuidi. At the start of the Euros it was Adrien Rabiot. Now it's Tolisso at the Euros. Well, not anymore because they've gone home. Look, it's not just Kante. It's a massive misconception. People think it is just Kante. They literally play 3 midfielders there, one of which is Pogba, and the other 2 are there to cover Paul Pogba.
And also, I mean, the one time they didn't do that against Switzerland, they played a double pivot with Pogba and Kante, and it completely fucking failed.
Yeah, I mean, in the first half, it failed because the system was terrible. Second half, they've gone to a 4-4-2. Pogba and Kante are the central midfielders, the only 2 central midfielders. And look what happened.
I just don't think. I agree. I completely agree that the system failed, but also I just don't think a double pivot with Pogba offers enough protection against most. I think in the Premier League you can get away with it against certain sides.
Yeah.
Even against those sides, normally you have 1 or 2 moments as a United fan where you shit yourself. But And again, I really don't mean this as a disrespect to Pogba. I don't hold it against him that he can't play in a double pivot. It's just not who it's not who he is as a player. Again, he should be talked about in the same way you talk about Kevin De Bruyne, and you don't hold it against Kevin De Bruyne for not being able to play in a double pivot. I don't think it should be held against Pogba either, but for some reason it is. I guess because a lot of people have the attitude that when you pay that much money for a player, they should be able to do everything. I don't agree with that. I think when you're paying that much money for a player, you should fucking know how to use them properly, and we just didn't. Sorry, I get very animated about this.
No, it's fair. United need we need to play with 2 attacking 8s. And to sort it out, you need a defensive midfield player, and you, as Pep's shown, inverted fullbacks are the way to go to give you that cover in midfield to prevent transitions. That could be massive for us. Matuidi played on the left, though. Yes, he did, but at the same time, when Pogba went forward, Matuidi would sort of come a little bit deeper and just be there as an extra sweeper, just an extra body running around to cover the space that opened up if it did. I mean, yes, theoretically, in that 4-2-3-1, yes, he was technically the left winger or whatever, but he was basically there just to cover Paul Pogba.
I'd almost say that Matuidi was and somewhat Rabiot. They reminded me of Fred.
Yeah, that is the equivalent. The United equivalent of doing that is playing a midfield of a new defensive midfield player, Paul Pogba, and then a front 3 in front of Sancho, Bruno, and Fred. That's the equivalent of. That's what United do to match that France team.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Mohamed Tariq says Pogba fulfilling his potential is down to Pogba. Sick of the excuses being made. I love Pogba, but it's been here. And for me, he hasn't improved. He needs to take accountability. That is fair as well. I mean, at the same time, like, I suppose if the manager's asking you to do a certain role, you've got to do it. There's no excuse just half-assing around.
I don't think he does half-ass it though. I don't think that it's fair to say he half-asses it. I think people are so unfair on him.
No, sometimes defensively he won't sprint when he needs to sprint. He's just lazy sometimes.
I don't know whether it's laziness though, or just not knowing when he should be sprinting.
I'm sorry, when you've had that look, if he was still 22, 23, I can accept maybe he doesn't know. But now he's played enough games. He can identify a dangerous situation in midfield. He knows when he has to sprint. He's just like, you know what, I'll just jog it slowly and see if anyone else gets there first. The number of times he's the one that loses the ball, and someone who's 20, 30 yards higher up the pitch than him gets back and wins that ball before he gets anywhere near there. It's a disgrace. If you lose the ball, you work hard to win it back. I think he's
man. I'm just a big Paul Pogba fan, and more than anything, I am really fucked off with how badly we've. I think a lot of the criticisms that are aimed at him just revert back to but this would not be an issue if we knew the asset we were buying and we knew how to use him properly. Genuinely, if we'd signed Kante alongside Pogba that summer and you have a midfield 3 of Kante, Herrera, Pogba, or you put Herrera in the Blaise Matuidi kind of false left wing role, I think you'd have a fantastic midfield. One point that WP has just put something up which I think is I completely agree. I don't think I've seen one comment from this guy that I haven't completely agreed with so far. And I think he's just nailed it again, because that's another point actually. Mezzala is sort of a technical term for a midfielder who goes wide a lot. And I think when you play Matuidi as a left winger, basically what happens is that Pogba tends to push out to the left, Matuidi tends to come inside. And sort of Pogba ends up occupying the left space rather than Matuidi. And Matuidi is sort of, just I don't want to say a water carrier, but sort of that kind of just does a lot of legwork to ease the amount of legwork that Kante would otherwise have to do.
Mezzala is the one of the best TikTok accounts of football, I think. But yeah, just random comment. But yeah, exactly. But the part of the problem is, if you want to play him as a left Mezzala, but you want to start him in the pivot or whatever, wherever you want to start him, obviously start him in this case just on the team sheet in a formation where you would theoretically start. You still need 2 players to cover him, and we can't do that unless we play a diamond. United can't do that. I just don't see where it comes from. And if you're going to play a diamond, then you drop in one of our forward players. If you don't play a diamond, then you've got to drop Bruno, haven't you? So
what I would say is that another thing I would say about Pogba is he hasn't been bad for us.
No,
he's still been. I think most teams would probably quite like to have a player whose level over the past 5 years has been Paul Pogba's level. There was one season in particular, I think it was one of Mourinho's seasons. So again, take it with something of a pinch of salt because we were quite crap in those seasons. But he had almost all of our best attacking numbers were Paul Pogba's.
Oh yeah, yeah, big time.
There was a chart one time where a lot of the other teams are quite well balanced. Paul Pogba occupied every single space.
It was every single one. I know exactly what chart you're meaning. Cheers, Ben, for coming on, and we'll
cheers, man.
Now, look on this one, I disagree with the logic. I don't think it makes sense. I think you're saying if I rated him that hard, he'd try to build a team around him. Agree with that. First sentence. The fact Ole knows he can't play in a pivot and still tries to persist speaks volumes. He clearly doesn't think Pogba is worth it. Surely the fact that he still tries to persist despite knowing that he can't play in a pivot suggests that he's too good to leave out the team.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the essential issue. And I'd actually like to address another question that Mohammed's asked. How can we still be discussing a player's best position? And I think it kind of ties into that. I don't blame Ole for this. He wasn't in charge at the time. I don't know if it was just Mourinho or whether it was Mourinho and the recruitment staff. I think the issue with Pogba is we signed a player. He was a Galactico signing with there was no plan as to how we'd fit these guys into the team, what the system's going to look like. It was just Paul Pogba's a great midfielder. Let's buy him because he's a great midfielder. And
that's how we did our transfers back then. That is what
absolutely.
Every time a decent player came up for a reasonable price or a price that we thought we could pay, we'd just take it. Whatever the position.
Career mode. You just put the best 11 players you can sign into one team and hope it goes well. I think Paul Pogba was probably the biggest victim of that awful transfer policy. Of just and what annoys me is I think that could have been a really good signing had it been made with a vision to. Because I genuinely think Paul Pogba is the kind of guy who is good enough to build a team around. And I think for France, you sort of see that. I don't rate Deschamps as a manager, but...
If we kept Ander Herrera, and even the Pogba, Matic, Herrera was a pretty good midfield. If we replaced Matic then with Kante, it becomes an elite midfield.
Absolutely.
And also, as well, you know how United have been so left side heavy? It suits that as well because the right side is therefore more balanced. So, the right side, not more balanced in terms of going forward, but it provides a defensive balance on the right with Herrera on that side. So I think it would have been brilliant. It would have worked very well.
Yeah, I mean, again, WP once again has nailed it as well. Ole can't use the system that best suits. Sorry, I feel like I'm taking over your role as host by constantly referring back to all these comments, but
you're not. No, you're doing the right thing. But I just wanted to say this comment comes first, then WP's. Like this. WP,
yeah, sorry, I just saw this is the first one that came up.
Go for this first, then do WP's.
Yeah. Let's Pogba works best in a different setup, then why is he still persisting with a 4-2-3-1? I feel like that's sort of a valid point, but I feel like the reason is that we don't have the defensive midfielder to make the system that Paul Pogba works best in work. I feel like you play Matic, you can't play every game, probably. I'd imagine that the reason Matic isn't playing every game is because of fitness concerns, because if that isn't the reason, then Matic should be playing every game. And neither Fred nor McTominay can't perform that role. They can't do what Kante does. I think both of them, they could probably do an acceptable job of doing what Rabiot or Matuidi do for France. Maybe McTominay less so. I don't think that's quite what he is as a player. But I think Fred probably could do it reasonably well. But I think the reason that we're going with a 4-2-3-1, and I genuinely do see that there's logic behind it. I think that, because we don't have that defensive midfielder who can play every week, you kind of have to have just two players who cover a lot of ground in order to offer. I don't think the midfield does provide that much protection to the to the centre backs, but in order to offer at least some.
Yeah. Mohammed says he always saw Pogba as a 10. Yeah. And it comes back to what WP's just said. He can't use the system that suits him best because Bruno's here. And on the last season we've had, I've got to say, it makes sense because Pogba's missed most of the season through injury. And as a result, if he built a team around Pogba, Pogba was number 10, and we didn't have Bruno, then what? We're left with what? Andreas Pereira? Because he presumably wouldn't have been loaned out in that case. But, yeah. No, Mohammed, honestly, mate, you do not sound like an idiot.
You don't sound like an idiot at all, man.
No, like, I tell you what, we've been, some people have made stupid comments and like actually they're just stupid.
Didn't want to say it, but yeah, there have been a few which I've just not understood.
A few things that are idiotic, but absolutely today this is actual like people that know the football talking football.
Yeah, man, I've been really enjoying it.
Even if we disagree, we can disagree.
Absolutely.
I can be wrong. Isaac can be wrong. And WP can be wrong. You can be wrong. Everyone can be wrong. Everyone can be right. It's not a problem at all.
I'm just a disagreeable bastard.
I've enjoyed the stream, so
I've really enjoyed it as well, man.
Thanks so much for your interaction. And in the interest of not going on too late, I think we'll probably end it there. Unless you've got anything else to say, Isaac.
Nothing particularly. It's coming home.
Yeah, it is coming home, and the stream is coming back tomorrow. Hopefully, if you're around tomorrow.
Tomorrow night, probably not. Honestly, I don't think I'll be around. Honestly.
Okay, yeah, I was thinking more during the afternoon, but it doesn't really matter what time.
Yeah, afternoon. I could be free. Just shoot me a message, and I'll let you know.
Will do, mate. Will do. And so thank you so much for coming on and joining the stream. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Final comment: Mohammed says Grealish over Pogba and KDB. In your opinion, I mean, I can see the argument. I think the question will always remain until Grealish goes to a top team. If he goes to City, we'll see.
I'd say he's more exciting. I'm not sure I'd say he's better.
I don't think we can make the judgment until he goes to a top team, because at Villa, everything goes through him. And until that changes at a top team, I don't think we can properly assess that. But on that note, thanks so much, guys, and we will see you again, hopefully tomorrow.
Yep. Cheers, guys.